Certainly one of the biggest buzzwords is the word Chat GPT and artificial intelligence. And the two things often are thought of as the same, but they're quite different, aren't they?
Well, definitely, yes. Considering the fact that Chat GPT is a language module based on an AI, and to make the best out of it, one has been using it as a search engine at best, but hasn't been able to maximize the outcome and the output of Chat GPT.
Well, our next guest is a seasoned entrepreneur. He is the legend of Chat GPT and AI literacy. He's been speaking all over the world. He's a professional speaker, and we're very fortunate to have him here in the studio. Fahed Bizzari, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here again.
How popular are you when people find out, come on, when people find out that you are this Chat GPT guru, you must be the most popular man in the room.
I can't say that, but I do have everybody trying to pull me into different directions. That is for sure.
Is that because people are confused or scared or uncertain?
It's a mix of all of the above, actually, because you've got some people, for example, they want to figure out what to do with their organizations. You've got other people who are concerned about their own selves. You've got people who are scared about their children. We're at the cusp of a revolution in humanity. And so everybody is coming at it from one angle or the other with some type of concern.
Now, when you say concern, we always live in this world which has the fear of unknown. And with Chat GPT, that fear of unknown has risen. People think that, will Chat GPT take my job away? Do I need to learn it? Are there courses? How do you break it down and simplify it for someone who probably just knows that it exists?
Well, look, Chat GPT is just one type of AI. In fact, Chat GPT, if you break it up, there's two parts to it. One is chat, one is GPT. So the underlying technology, which is GPT, it's a type of language model, which basically means that now the people who are involved in developing AI have finally got a computer to think in a way that is similar, not the same, but similar to human beings, to be able to understand language like a human and respond and talk back in that language as a human. That opens up countless possibilities, because now you can, as a human being, express commands. It will understand your commands and then translate them into something else. This means, for example, your car could break down, and like you see in the Marvel films with Jarvis, you can now speak to your car. I know Mercedes is doing this. I know BMW is going into it. So you get to a point now where you can walk into your house, and what we've always seen in films, put the coffee on. Now, do we have the technology to connect A to B? Maybe, maybe not. Around the world, this is what everybody's frantically trying to build. But the general direction, think about Jarvis in the Marvel films. Think about that as, let's say, ChatGPT.
Help me out. Yeah. I haven't seen the Marvel movies.
What the?
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know who Jarvis is. Do I need to ask ChatGPT?
What are you doing tonight? Let's do it tonight, me and you.
Gonna watch the rest of the Ashes.
I've got my kids with me. They'll be very happy to do it.
Yeah.
So Jarvis is Tony Stark's AI.
Okay.
And it actually
Tony Stark, is that Iron Man?
For God's sake.
Oh, okay.
All right, for God's sake.
No,
all right, so it's Iron Man, right? So Iron Man has got his own AI that helps him solve all of these problems and so on. But what many people don't actually know is that his AI also runs his business for him. All right. So you got to think about Jarvis as being ChatGPT version 30, right? So we've started off with a very basic, helpful chatbot that is a general purpose. And then a few months ago, they added the concept of plugins, right? Now, the plugins are being developed by developers everywhere else. So, for example, you could have something like Skyscanner. Are you familiar with Skyscanner?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. So they developed a plugin to plug into ChatGPT that allows you to type up, please check for available flights on such and such date in business class or whatever, flying in the morning, returning back in the evening, etc. So it takes all of that natural language, turns it into kind of computer language, checks to set the flights, and then comes back and says, I'm sorry, there's no flights. Oh yeah, you've got 5 flights available, etc. So the more plugins being developed, the more and more closer and closer we're getting to that concept of having a central help bot that can now interact with all sorts of businesses and plugins and tools.
I do a lot of work with universities and open days and forums. And it seems as though for higher education, initially they were quite fearful of the way students could use this to just have Chat GPTs and AIs to write their assignments. But now they're realising, actually, hang on, we need to teach students about this because it's going to be far more advantageous when they graduate to be the experts of ChatGPT in the workplace because it's going to affect every single industry. that mindset, how hard is it to change so many sectors to learn to be able to work with this and use it rather than try and shut it down due to their fear?
It is quite hard, actually. So if we talk about so we've got the education, and then we've got post-education, which is the workplace. So let's talk about the two separately. In education, of course, you've got something that's literally coming and turning everything completely upside down.
Yeah.
You can do your best to say, no, you can't use Chat GPT to do your assignments, but now you've got two conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
One of them is, how are you going to stop kids from doing it?
True.
Right? So I've got my kids. I've got a 19-year-old, 17, 16, 14, and an 11, yeah? Yeah.
What?
All right.
I was thinking, you look too young to have a 19-year-old. That's what I was thinking.
So what happens there is that, they come to me and they say, oh, Baba, I used it for research. And I'm like, you liar.
Well, because on that, there's a university that's got a court case on because the lecturer thought students were writing Chat GPT assignments. So asked Chat GPT how many students used you to write assignments, and Chat GPT said every single student. So he failed everyone.
I think he's going to be in trouble because Chat GPT itself wouldn't have that knowledge. It doesn't have that knowledge. All right.
Yeah.
If you understand how the tech works, you'll know that it does not have that knowledge. However, if I don't know, I'm going to start saying secrets online for kids how to use Chat GPT and not get caught. Yeah. Which I mean,
they're on holidays.
They're on holidays, right? They're not listening to the show. Fantastic. So ChatGPT has a default language that it talks in. It has a default way of speaking, which is into its program, but you can reprogram it. So you can reprogram it to speak like an Australian. You can reprogram it to speak like, I don't know, a Canadian, or you can reprogram it to talk like, I don't know, Obama or Clinton or whoever, right? Mm-hmm. So those kids that are not doing that, their reports are being spoken in the natural voice of ChatGPT. Right. That's how they're getting caught.
Okay.
Right. So all you need is a few tweaks here and there.
So you want to?
I'll come to that. This is a very interesting point that you made over here. Yeah. It does speak in a different language. So I was toying around with ChatGPT. Okay, and I wanted it to write an opening script for myself for one of my shows.
Okay.
And I prompted that command to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, can you do this for me?" Came up, and I was like, you know what? This is and I wrote this. I said, this is very boring.
Yeah.
And also make it in Hinglish.
Okay.
Hindi and English.
Very good.
And ChatGPT came up with the first line, I'm sorry to make it boring. Here is the interesting one. And it writes the entire script in Hindi and English mix.
That's my boy.
Right? now that was a little bit colloquial, not completely. And I said, this Hindi is very pure written Hindi. I want a version of a spoken Hindi from Bombay. Bang. And there were 3 words which only a Bombay person uses in their Hindi. And I was like, dude, this is magic.
Amazing. Exactly.
This is where we are heading into.
Yep, that's it.
Where does your passion for this come from?
Well, historically, one of the things that there's 2 things I'm very passionate about from before AI.
Yeah.
Okay. One of them is what my nickname comes from, which is Chaos Wrangler, which is I just have a knack for finding chaos and like wrangling it. Right? Figuring out how do we make sense of this madness? How do we like dissect it into components and so on? In the business space, that saw me when I was involved in franchising.
Yeah.
So you take an existing business and I have to break it into bits and pieces in order to now open up new locations with new members of staff, etc. That started off actually as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I would be sitting there watching TV, 8, 9 years old, and at 3 a.m, I'd be like, you know what, this room is not set up in the optimal way. And I just get up 3 a.m. and reorganize the entire room, put the TV over there, the shelves over there, whatever. And my kids, my mother would come in the morning, she'd be screaming, what are you doing? What is this? And then she'd look and she'd go, you know what? Actually, this is better. So that's something which I remember as a child, just being able to wrangle chaos. And the second thing, which I'm very passionate about, which is knowledge engineering. So I am I am an autodidact, which basically means I like to learn things and I like to teach myself. And one of the best ways of doing that is to take existing knowledge, whether it's in a book, a website, whatever, and reorganize it in a way that makes sense to you. Okay. Similarly, if you wanted to learn somebody else's job, which is important in a business and franchising, especially when business entrepreneurs are trying to take a step back from the business, they need to communicate what's in their head over to other people in the company. So you sit there and you dissect it all, turn it into frameworks and so on. And that's basically what's happened now with AI. AI has dissected all of this knowledge of humanity and put it all together in a way that now we can tap in. And things that used to take me, from a knowledge engineering point of view, things that used to take me weeks, I now get done in like an hour or 2 hours.
Wow.
So for me, it's an absolute fantasy. And I remember about 2 years ago, I was with a branding company who was helping me with one of my software company. And they said to me, tell us about your passion for this company. I said, look, I'm not passionate about this company. Like, huh? What? Because that's the branding guys. They're trying to like tap into like the
Right.
next layer, yeah? And they're like, what do you mean you're not passionate? I said, listen, this thing just makes me money. I am not passionate about it. I hate it.
I bet you were popular in that meeting.
But no, wait. They said there has to be something. I said the only part I will be passionate about when we finally get there is the AI side, right? Which is the bot, which is where you're programming the bot to act like a human being. And we thought that the time that we will be able to afford to do that was still years away. And now 2022 comes along. We get GPT-3, we get GPT-3, we get Chat GPT. Suddenly, everything is much more affordable, much more within reach. Now I'm on fire.
Now, this is, when you're listening to Fahed, this is why you need to be a part of the Chat GPT Accelerator. It's the world's most thorough training program aimed at helping you master the use of Chat GPT to enhance your work life, your personal life. Now, you've got these going. They're 2-day boot camps, aren't they?
Yep. I've been running them since February. I was on my way back to Sri Lanka, so I pretty much bounced between the UK and Sri Lanka.
Lovely.
I love it. Yeah. Sri Lanka is a paradise island, man. And my father actually is the one who's pushed me into helping people with their AI.
Yeah.
And I arrived here in February en route to Sri Lanka. I said I'll just stay here for 10 days. And I'm speaking to people about ChatGPT, and they're saying, yeah, we've heard of it, but we haven't actually tried it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, guys, it's been out for 3 months. What are you talking about? Every day that you miss in the AI era is like 30 days that you've missed, because anybody that is now equipped with a multiplier, every day they're going with that multiplier. You're moving forward one day, they're moving forward, depending how effectively they're using it, they're moving forward 10 days. So I was like, guys, what are you guys doing? So I told a bunch of friends at the time, I said to them, listen, round up your friends. I'll give you guys a free seminar.
Okay.
Right? Because I've got my dad's voice ringing in the back of my head. Think about your brother. Think about your sisters. Think about your children. Think about people. Because him and I actually, we actually shed many tears as we started to understand the implications of where we're heading, right? And so I started doing that. And then all the people in the seminars and the webinars basically said, listen, this is not enough. Mm-hmm. All you've done is show us the iceberg. You haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg. We need to get deep and down. So I did the first accelerator in February, and I've been doing it monthly since. And I've also been doing an executive edition of the accelerator, where people that don't have the ability to stay in a room for 2 days, like they're fast-moving decision makers, but because they're senior, they get things really quickly. So for those guys, it gets stripped down to just 9 hours, 4.5 on day 1, 4.5 on day 2, and I do maximum 6 in a room. And so it's very cozy, very intimate, and I prepare them in advance. I have 1-hour sessions with each of them in advance to prepare them for the workshop as best as possible.
So when's the next one? September 9 and 10?
September 9 and 10 is the general one, but I have a partnership at the moment with Creative Zone. So they have come in and said, listen, Fahed, we love what you're doing. They've sent people to my accelerator in the past. They said, we love what you're doing, and we want you to help us get this in front of our audience. So Creative Zone, they're one of the leading kind of company formation companies here in the UAE.
Visa people,
Visa and all that, right? They've done more than 75,000 formations. So they've got a wicked audience of entrepreneurs. So we basically said, you know what? Let's do one for entrepreneurs. So the Chat GPT Accelerator that I'm running on a monthly basis is kind of open. You could be an entrepreneur, you could be a business professional, you could be whoever it is. And I've had teachers coming in, like really anyone, yeah? I've had people who are retired coming in. They just want to learn. But the one that's happening on August 12th and the 13th has got a specific entrepreneur focus, which means that the demos that we work on are all going to be pretty much entrepreneurial oriented.
Well, this is an inspiration. You don't work on a normal level, do you? You're working up here somewhere.
Listen, I was working up there before AI, with AI, that's really another thing altogether, man.
Well, I think this is so exciting. If you want more details, you can check out the website, the chatgptaccelerator.com. You can find out more about Fahed and also about those upcoming boot camps or those intensive days of transfer if you are one of the executives and you learn a bit faster. Thank you very much for coming in and sharing your knowledge. I mean, I feel like we could go for hours here.
We could.
Yeah, and that's what the boot camps, I guess, are for. So, Fahed Bizzari, thank you very much for coming in. TSB, TalkSport Business on